a candle to open our space on another level. And I invite you to, if you can, put this here. And I'm going to admit that I feel inadequate for the moment, but I know on some level that we're all here and we're completely ready for what we've put before us. So I'll open the space. First of all, I'm going to mute everybody there. I'm going to open the space reading a poem from Christian Morgenstern. And the name of this is The Washing of the Feet. I thank you, silent stone on earth, and gently lean to you below. My life as plant I owe to you. I thank you, grounds and meadows green, and bend down close to you below. My life as animal depends on you. I thank you, animal and plant and stone, and bow down thankfully to you below. You helped me to become all three. And we thank you, you child of man, and kneel in reverence before you. Only because you are, we are. From all God's creation, simple or so manifold, rise thanks. In thankfulness, all being intertwines. So in thankfulness to Rudolf Steiner and to the community that we're creating together, thank you for being here. I ask for the blessings of East, West, North, and South. And I'll turn it over to you, Hazel. Thank you.
Yes, now that we have all the elemental beings here with us, we can reach into the spiritual world that we're part of as human beings. And it really is a beautiful celebration of life that this amazing Christian initiate has given us so much that it's this beautiful picture of all his blessings here. And I'm sure all of us would have so many wonderful stories to tell of how our lives have been enriched, completely changed by his work. So I really found it heartening to hear the reflections of some of Rudolf Steiner's closest contemporaries. And I've gathered a bunch of them over the years. Their reflections around this time where he was ill and what that was all about for them and their impressions of this beautiful being and what he went through. And we don't really have a lot of time to share, but there's so many of them. So I made a little recording on the I Think Speech podcast. So if you want to hear from Dr. Ita Wegman and Albert Steffen and many others, then you can go there and I'll have a little picture of some of his friends there coming up later. But I thought maybe we would start with this picture, from this biography of Willem Zijlmans van Emmenkhoven, who he was the first general secretary of the Dutch Anthroposophical Society. And his piece was just so beautiful. I picked this one to share. And so he says, these are his words. And then on March 30th, 1925, after an illness lasting 7 months, Rudolf Steiner's death calls us to Dornach. We divided the 3-day vigil between us. Rudolf Steiner lay on his deathbed in the studio. The image I received was one of divine joy and human suffering. The quote, friend of the gods and guide to humankind, as Albert Steffen called him, was dead. Yet outside in nature, the gods celebrated as the great guide of humankind returned to them. Within, by the deathbed, human beings mourned for the friend of the gods that had been taken from them. Yet spring was coming outside. The birds suddenly began to sing. The joy of resurrection lived in plant and beast. The joy of resurrection sought its path to the human being, entered our senses, and sank down into our hearts. How wonderful he looked on that first day after his death, as though gently, so peaceful and thoughtful, as though he might wake up at any moment and to tell us what his spirit had experienced up in the heavens. His death was like a prayer, we were told. For hours, he lay enfolded in the deepest thought, gazing into far distances. Then his thoughtfulness increasingly became prayer. He lay immobily still with folded hands, speaking only a few loving words to his friend and nurse, Frau Dr. Wegman. After some hours, he closed his eyes and left his body. Without a death struggle, his prayer on earth fulfilled. But to us, it seemed his spirit continued to pray, as though his mighty prayer passed through our mourning souls. And where joy of resurrection and pain found one another in our hearts, something blossomed and floated aloft, borne on his prayer, ascending. And what was for each individual a prayer of thanks became a trusting picture of the future for one and all. On the second day, it seemed different to me. There was now a shadow of pain across his spirit-penetrated countenance, as though some of the pain of the many hundreds of friends gathering from all countries were reflected in his face. It was harder to experience joy of resurrection now, but solemn, rejoicing thoughts arose from his illuminated forehead. Then came the third day, and once more something had changed. Now I saw the face of a saint before me, without pain, without sin, a face that seemed greater than any ordinary human being, but at the same time contained in miniature all that is beautiful, good, and true. Unreachable, far away from us, but at the same time very close. Divine, but the epitome of human. His noble brow shone brighter than before. His deep eyes concealed world secrets. His beautiful mouth spoke a cosmic language now. Never before had one seen such hands. They were powerful, like the hands of someone used to hard work, but spiritualized right into the last fiber of muscle. He had carved hard wood with them. He had used them to write his clear, light script. He had given his hand in greeting to countless people, and each person felt this as a blessing. The moon shone like a sun, yet black demonic cloud shapes kept trying to conceal the light, but it reflected sunlight more and more brightly down to the earth. Around him burned candles, casting their glow on the black coffin. The fragrance of flowers floated up, speaking a delicate language of the soul. Great and silent stood the statue of the representative of humanity at his feet, with its world destiny guiding gesture. How strange and mysterious everything looked, yet familiar at the same time, as if this had happened before, some other time. And then we suddenly knew this event reaches beyond time. It points back to the far distant past and towards the far future. Past and future here melt into one, into human cosmic destiny. We know that hard times will come, but each one who in his mourning heart shared in the experience of this festival of resurrection will find that the hard times are no more than prohibitions of the soul in which we will prevail. Such a beautiful reflection. I feel like we were all just there. So when Albert Steffen, who visited Rudolf Steiner regularly throughout his illness, recalled this time, he mentioned that, and these are his words, "I visited him where he lay in his sick bed. It was a tall room with skylights. Nothing of the earth looks in. No tree, no mountain, no house, only the light of the heavens. Sculptural and architectural models that he has made himself stand on the shelves. At the foot of his bed, the noble statue of Christ, carved by his own hand, soars high above him. All around him are tables covered with books and manuscripts. Up to this last day of his life, his interest was for the entire world. In his studio, which he had not left for half a year, he had collected an entire library." So I just wanted to give those two examples because they mention the power of the sculptural group. And I feel like it's really important for us to call that up in our memories now. I could show some pictures of it. I don't know if we want to do that, and maybe we should just stay together. But yeah, he worked on this up until the last days and gazed upon this creation, featuring the representative of humanity, embodying the Christ countenance, striding ever forward with the impulses of wonder, compassion, moral conscience, and unconditional love. So I don't know, maybe like me, you've been fortunate enough to see it in Dornoch. It's quite impressive. Let me just pull up a picture here. Yes, these are some of the friends that we could hear from, of course. But this is, and I'm sorry, I don't know the name of this sculpture, that the sculptor that's working with Steiner. I don't know if you can see on the left-hand side, he's wearing a hat. Steiner's is standing there. So this is when they're still working on it. And this is just beautifully lit. It's just really, if you go there in Dornoch, it's so impressive. You know, I mean, it looks so small here, but you can, you know, innately experience the etheric forces of Rudolf Steiner literally etched into the wood. So when this idea to do this vigil came up, that was the first thought I had. This was this picture of him lying in the Schreinerei, contemplating the countenance of Christ, which he carved with such love and such painstaking attention to every living detail of this divine and earthly being. You know, there's actually some reports that when Steiner was, that he actually made Lucifer and Ahriman pose for him, right? Have people heard that? So he could get their countenances right. You know, Lucifer, of course, you know, he was only too glad to be admired. You know, he was happy to stand there and pose, but Ahriman fought. He does not like to be seen. That's why it's good to call him out. And it was said that in his anger, this being, you know, he didn't like being held by Steiner's will. So Ahriman cracked one of the glass windows. But the thought of Rudolf Steiner connecting supersensibly with the being of Christ is astonishing. Marie Steiner provides us with some insights into each feature, what they represent, and what the indications that Steiner said about each one of the features. And obviously we're not going to go into that today, but 13 years after his death, she wrote a little article called In Memory of Rudolf Steiner and spoke specifically about the statue and his work with it. And so, yeah, I want to let Timothy's talk, but I just want to bring in this last picture of how in the four seasons in the archangels, which I recently worked with, you can really see this picture of Raphael as the archangel of spring. And Steiner speaks about the mysteries of Easter as being played out between the architecture of the first Goetheanum, the sculptural group, and what he called a kind of mystery play, showing how the human being must be taught by Raphael that each spring we have to see Ahriman and Lucifer and those forces which are vying to make us ill. And that we have this power of Raphael at Easter time to help us perceive and recognize that we also have healing impulses available to us in what Steiner called a great world therapy, which lives in the Christ impulse. How at Easter, there is a certain crowning of all that can flow into humankind around the secrets of how to redeem the adversarial forces. And this is connected to the unveiling of the new Isis, the being behind the sculptural group, working now behind the scenes as we strive to purify our astral body. Anthroposophia shows us to ourselves when we are willing to take up the gifts given so abundantly from the individuality we call Rudolf Steiner. May we meet him again someday. Thank you, friends. Blessings on our striving.
Thank you, Hazel. So rich. Thank you for the work that you do. And then the voice that you bring it to us with your voice. It's so powerful. Timothy, you also have a wonderful voice.
Yeah. On some days, I'm mostly out of my way, maybe. Yeah, thank you both, Angela and Hazel, for your work that you've shared and for inviting me to celebrate this day with you. Celebrate the death day of our dear teacher. Thank you all for showing up to celebrate together. In the interest of not rushing, I'll move on. 2 years ago, I was buying tickets for a trip to Barcelona, and my partner stepped in and actually found some really, really cheap, incredibly cheap tickets. It just so happened that it required a 20-hour layover in Zurich. And so contacted a friend who's been living and working at the Goetheanum for years, and he was overjoyed for the possibility to pick us up and host us for a night. And we got to take me and my partner into the death room of Rudolf Steiner, behind the stages and into the craft rooms and all the back parts of the Goetheanum, and to look at all the props for the mystery drama plays and to really live into what's behind the facades. And what a gift to be brought unexpectedly into meditative experience of the room in which Rudolf Steiner died, and to be allowed to be alone with his dying. And that's why I feel additionally grateful to share some of that with you. And what for me has been an unfolding of the possibility and beauty of the death of a great initiate, the unforeseen death. What amazing questions, like all of anthroposophy, the death of Rudolf Steiner can give to us. And that's been the most lasting piece for me, is this opportunity in incompleteness, in imperfection, in the questions that were posed to Rudolf Steiner throughout his life that allowed him to unfold so much for us. We have the questions that he poses to us, questions he leaves for us to take up the work of becoming more human. Take up the work that he modeled so incredibly. I mean, we have, in the study of anthroposophy, there's no end to the depth and breadth of the vastness of his enlightened thinking that we can take on, we can feel. And through the work, so many lectures, of so much giving, of so many meetings with individuals, especially the work he took on during and through the First World War that he could hear just across the border when he invited artists from all over these countries to create a new temple for the word. for renewal of the arts, for renewal of society that could become such a threat to the establishments that it led to the burning of this new temple. It led to so much attack. I think of him in his review of his life, experiencing not only the gifts and love that he was able to give to those who sought him out as their teacher, who sought to have a new open path to the initiatory sciences, but to the experience that he consciously took on of those who sought to keep that work from being public. Conscious suffering that he put into others, that he would take up as his responsibility. That conscious attack that he was willing to face. And in that, I find the true light that warmed this man's heart. And I've been able to experience a real blossoming of the love of Rudolf Steiner in me. This love for the completeness of humanity. This representation of humanity is not of the Christ. It is of the complete struggle to be human in this age. It is with this statue in this shack with thin walls against the storms that raged around his illness that he chose to lie at the feet of this reality he was trying to unfold, that he didn't complete. This reality that is there for us to complete. What it means to really be at the foot of this statue is it means to be in the darkness that was carved in the underworld and to be with the Lord of Death. To imagine an initiate who could take on not only the experience of all of the struggles of humanity, but sought it out, to hold it, to unfold it, to represent the fullness. To not forget to add cosmic humor at the top. This magical force that humans have to take in the darkness and depth and arrogance and failings and laugh, and to laugh at our challenge, at our failings, and to show mercy both to those around us and to ourselves in our struggles to unfold and make space for the love and light, life of the world. And so to me, the incompleteness on paper of Rudolf Steiner's life, the incompleteness in the practical world of the representation of humanity, the completeness of the rebuilding of the temple, of the turning of the two domes of the first Goetheanum inside out, so that the circles of the influences of the world could be centering anthroposophy all around the world in the hearts of those who take up this middle path. So for me, I celebrate this brokenness, this incompleteness, this opportunity, this death of Rudolf Steiner, this birth of Rudolf Steiner into the spiritual world, this work, this immensely gifted mind, this vast, warm heart. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. We are really able to create something. And it is incredible. And I'm very grateful, so thank you. I don't really want to close the space. And I think the next right thing to do is to just take another few, I'm going to just say 2 minutes of silence. I don't even know what time it is. Let me see. It's 3:33 in Atlanta. So I'm going to mute myself and take 2 minutes of silence. And then I have a prayer from Carl Koenig to close. So I invite you to take these couple of moments too. Okay. It's nice to give silence her turn as well. So we'll close this little sanctuary, but we still have a whole nother day that we can be working together because we have the bridge verse to consider and the gifts of Rudolf Steiner that he's so, it's, miraculously just poured forth for us. And then tomorrow evening, our intention is to, before bed, just to then close the 3-day vigil. So before bed, I'll take down the flowers from my altar and take those outside and probably say the bridge verse again, or maybe the foundation stone meditation just to close this. So I invite you to just take some consciousness with the space as well as you will. So again, thank you to Timothy and Hazel for those just beautiful offerings. It is such an honor to co-create with you and all the other souls who showed up in Zoom for this moment in time so that we could bridge the past and the future. And thank you to your guardian angels for bringing us all together. So, yeah, this is a prayer that a friend in one of the Camp Hill communities brought to my attention. And so in discerning what would be right for this moment, this is what I think. These are the words that I'll bring. And my notes say that it's from Karl Koenig from August of 1962. And although I think we have people gathered here from around our Mother Earth, the title of this says, "For the Friends in America." The eternal lamps of the Holy Spirits of light build a tower of human confidence which grows in our hearts out of brotherly love. The eternal pillars of the helping spirit messengers form a bridge of faithfulness which spans from eye to eye within our work. Thus, we unite and grow strong in the work we have started, which is laid upon us in spirit to bring to fulfillment. May a greeting from soul to soul sound through the bonds of our deeds. So thank you. Thank you, Rudolf Steiner. Thank you, friends, co-workers, co-creators. The last note before we go is that we've created a Padlet, which is an online bulletin board. So if you have a practice of working with after images, sometimes in a gathering like this, we can have powerful images come forward for us in the next 2 or 3, 4 or 5 days. So we have a Padlet in case anything comes that you want to try to share with the people that have gathered in this group. It was in the original invitation. I should have brought it to put in the chat. I can do that now, but it's going to take me a minute. So I'll close the space and just, you can unmute yourself and say goodbye. I'll look for the link and I'll put it in the chat. But if you have to leave before I do, I bet Hazel will put it in her blog. So blessings, friends. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, amazing. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Goodbye. Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you, everyone. Hello, Ami.
This is beautiful.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. This was wonderful.
Thank you. Much love and blessings.
Okay, I got it in the chat. So if you want to click into the Padlet now, it should open up for you and then you'll have it if you need it for the next couple of days. Thank you.
Very well. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you
Good to
all.
see you all.
Bye.
How do I get to the chat?
Elena, I'll send it to you. I'll just send it to you in an email so you don't even have to worry about the chat.
Oh, wonderful. See you are lovely.